Good.
We're good? Oh. Welcome, everyone, to the Do's and Don'ts of Starting a Business. My name is Carol Cox. I'm a course director in the Internet Marketing programs here at Full Sail University, where I've been teaching for the past 9 years. I'm also on my third business, so I understand the do's and don'ts of starting a business through the different trials and tribulations and successes that I've had over the past 15 plus years. So we'll get into that in a little bit more, but I'd like to introduce our panelist, Michael LaPlante. Can you tell us a bit about your businesses?
Yeah, so I graduated in 2010, and I started out with a freelance business, LaPlante Web Development, that ran right from the start. And then I've had a couple other businesses. Specifically, I started a coding school almost 4 years ago now, and that lasted for about a year. And we can get into some of the reasons on the lessons I learned to why that no longer exists. But I've had that, and then I've had a hand in a bunch of other various startups and companies that I've since sold off to things like Ticketmaster and the like.
Great, and also just for those of you who are on Twitter and are following the conversation, don't forget the hashtag FullSailHOF. My Twitter username is @CarolMorganCox, so definitely connect with me there and tweet at me. And Michael, what is your Twitter?
Mine is @LaPlanteWebDev.
All right, fantastic. So we're going to take your questions in a little bit, but first I want to go through our entrepreneurial journeys to give you a sense of the landscape of what it's like to start a business. So Michael, I'm going to throw it over to you. Tell us about the first business that you started. Why did you decide that you wanted to be an entrepreneur?
All right, so I'm going to preface this whole topic with being an entrepreneur and starting your own business is going to be tough. You see a lot of the glamorous stuff out there when people talk about starting a business. So when I started my own business, graduating Full Sail, I was very young. I thought I could take over the world, go out there. You know, I was coming off this degree. I had all this knowledge. Thought I knew it all. Got out there. The first client that I had ended up trying to sue me for some stuff. So that's immediately when I realized, hey, this running a company thing is not going to be as easy as I thought. And the reason I really did that is because I, like many of you here in the audience and online today, probably are your own person. You don't like to be controlled or bossed around by anybody, and I was that way. You know, I chose Full Sail specifically for the type of education it provided. So that's why I was like, hey, I'm going to start my own business. This is going to be great. I'm going to be my own boss. And through that process, learned, you know, many lessons. Obviously, protect yourself. One of the first things I did after getting sued was go and hire a legal counsel, an attorney, to kind of represent me, look over all my contracts, advise me, hey, this is a cool contract, this is a not cool contract. I wish I had known that from day one when I started the company, and then just whether it's worth what type of corporation you're going to form. There's a bunch of different types of companies that you can form, and some have tax benefits, some don't have tax benefits, some require you to make an extraordinary amount of money before you get any tax benefits. So kind of having that legal counsel, they can kind of guide you all the way and really push you forward. I mean, that's what attorneys are there for. That's what they studied for. That's their expertise.
Yes, definitely seek out those experts. I have a funny story about this. So I started my first business in 2001. I was living in Atlanta, Georgia at the time. And so my then boyfriend, now husband, and I started a technology company, software development. And so he was doing some work for Coca-Cola, obviously one of the big companies in Atlanta. They had an incubator at the time. So we were starting our business, and we knew we needed some contracts for our clients, but we didn't have any money. We were bootstrapping. I was in grad school at the time as well. So we knew we needed a lawyer to help us draft a contract. So I found a contract online. This was early days of the internet, so there wasn't a whole lot. But I found a contract, kind of modified it, and then went to the lawyers that Coca-Cola used. One of those big skyscrapers downtown, really fancy, marble. So I went in and I said, okay, I have a contract that I've kind of modified that I found online, and I have a check for $100 that I can pay you. Spend as much time as you can for that $100, and then give me back that contract based on however you think you modify it, and then we'll be good. The lawyer kind of looked at me like, okay, what is this woman doing? But I got that contract back, only spent $100, and that is a contract that I still use to this day, 17 years later, with my clients. So there are ways to go about negotiating and getting what you want, but just doing some legwork to start with. So Michael, what is another big lesson that you've learned along the way of having your own businesses?
Mental health is really, really important. As you're starting your own company, you're going to go through a lot of tough things. You're going to have to get health care if you have employees. You're going to figure out if you're going to need an office, if you're going to work remote. So all of these things really start weighing you down, the stresses of starting a company. So one of the best things you can do for yourself is some kind of mental health, whether that's if you like to exercise and go to the gym, or like to go and hang out on the beach since we're here in Florida, or I was just up in Michigan last week, so if you like to go ice skating in the snow. All of those things, taking that time for your own personal mental health will really immensely help. One of the biggest things that I see with a lot of young entrepreneurs as they start the company and they go through, finding healthcare and finding insurances and finding clients and getting contracts, all this stuff just kind of weighs them down and they quit before they even start because it's just so much stress on them. And then if you have a business partner, find somebody who's almost your opposite. You don't want somebody that's always going to agree with everything that you say. If you have somebody that's just a yes person, you're going to be in trouble because you need that opposite to kind of balance you out and counterbalance you, and kind of be somebody that you can lean on, and the opposite, she may be able to lean on you or he may be able to lean on you.
That's a great point. So having not only complementary skill sets, so you may really be good on the technical side, maybe you're a coder, but finding someone who's really strong on the sales side or the business side or vice versa, but also having someone who maybe has a different approach to problem solving or a different approach to working out ideas than you do. You may be very, say, research focused and you like to get a bunch of options before you make a decision. Maybe your partner is someone who likes to brainstorm lots of really creative ideas, but finding a way for you to integrate and mesh together can oftentimes lead to a very successful business venture. So Michael, you mentioned earlier that one of the reasons why you wanted to start your own business is because you wanted to be your own boss. You like that sense of freedom and flexibility and autonomy, and I'm sure there's a lot of you who are sitting here who also feel that way. And I think that's the case for most entrepreneurs. But the thing to keep in mind is that you also have to be solving a problem and be solving a big enough problem that people out there are willing to pay for. So Michael, have you experienced that in your businesses as far as services or offerings that you've had and trying to find that product market fit and who would be your best market for that product?
Yeah, there's been plenty of ideas that I either came up with to start a business or I've been a part of as like a co-founder. And, we kind of just pooled our group of friends, and by group of friends, I mean extended friends. So, family, friends, their friends. And we're like, oh yeah, this is a really great idea. And then we go and we spend months, let's say 4 to 6 months, building this technology product. We launch it, we're either offering it for free or for a very small fee, and nobody signs up. And then we kind of are like, all right, what's going on? And we never did our proper market research to realize, hey, is this really a problem that's far spread enough even outside of my city? If, hey, I'm here in Orlando, is somebody in Denver, Colorado having the same problems that we are having here? And is it a solvable thing that will work in both locations?
One of the classes that I teach here is entrepreneurship and business models. And one of the assignments that the students do is they actually have to go interview real people. So the customer research, customer interviews. So they have to interview real people who are in their target market. And I think that as entrepreneurs, we're a little bit scared to talk to real people. It's so much easier to sit behind our computers and to do whatever it is we're doing, thinking of our ideas, whether it's programming software or creating a film or creating some type of design work or marketing our, if we're, say, we want to be an internet marketer, marketing our services, rather than go talk to real people. There's a methodology that has become popular in Silicon Valley, but really applies to all businesses, not just technology businesses, and it's called Lean Startup. And the idea is to get something out to the market as quickly as possible that's usable for your target market so that they can start giving you feedback. You can learn from them what they want and what they don't want, and then you can keep iterating around that. So Michael, I'm sure you're familiar with Lean Startup. How have you used that in your business?
So there's one business specifically that I was a part of starting, and it started out of like a hackathon weekend, which is just a weekend where everybody got in a room and created a business very much like you do in your classes here. And the whole time they had this really iterative feedback loop where they were going around during the hackathon and going to all the other teams and saying, hey, what do you think about this? And somebody would say, oh, I like green over blue or something like that. They'd go and implement it immediately. And they continued to do that and get feedback from their customers as they evolved this business that they were building. And as we evolved this business, the CEO was on the phone with customers every single day. every single day this dude was, I mean, that's all he did was call, 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 call. He got over the fact that he was afraid of talking to people because he realized he couldn't pay himself. The people that he's talking to are eventually going to end up being the ones who pay him. And that ended up being very fruitful for him. He ended up, selling the company to Ticketmaster, being a vice president there for a few years, and then cashing out. And now he ends up traveling the world and having a grand old time.
Well, that's a nice success story.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite, because that's one of those customer stories where it's really like he was on the phone every day talking to people. I mean, you think, okay, 9 to 5 a.m. I mean, he'd be on the phone with a customer at 1 a.m. that's over in India or something, asking them how they like the product. And still to this day, he's since launched another 3 or 4 other companies, and it's always the same way. He kind of opens the company up, gets feedback from an initial group of people, and then they do like that's like their soft launch of their products, and then they do the hard launch, which is where they open it to everybody, because then they already have traction. They know what they're doing is fruitful and working, and they're getting paid for it. So now they can open it up and really to the masses, and then that's the big payday.
Right. And if you're going to start a business, you definitely have to be comfortable selling, because that's how you're going to get revenue, and that's how you're going to get clients and customers, is by asking for the sale and doing it obviously in a very genuine, authentic way, not like in a slick, icky sales way. But if you believe in your product or your service and what you're doing, then you naturally should want to talk to people about it, especially people who you think could benefit from your product or service, and talking to them and get that visibility. Get yourself out there and become known for what it is that you're doing, and then you'll have people start coming to you as well. Michael, what have you done for visibility for your businesses?
Oh, we've done everything from grassroots movements to going around knocking on doors almost to reaching out to high-end contacts. I know one of the companies that we had went through Y Combinator, so that gave us a lot of exposure to technology companies specifically. We've hired marketing firms to help us market companies to figure out if what we're using for our market terminology is incorrect. In very early days, grassroots days, we pay for like Facebook campaigns and Twitter ads and campaigns. All that stuff, if targeted correctly, is very important, and still to this day is a big key. There's an event, I'm from Tampa, Florida. There's an event, Startup Week, that's going on there right now, and one of the biggest marketing tools that we have are Facebook ads. We pump Facebook ads about a month before the event starts, and it's amazing to see the traction and click-through rate that we get just from those Facebook ads. Because if you think about it, you're probably on Facebook a lot of the time during the day. Most people I know, especially young generation, are always on their phones. I'm on my phone almost 24/7. So.
Great. Well, let's open it up to questions now. I want to hear from you all. If you are running a business right now, or if you're thinking of starting a business, what are some of the questions that you have on your minds? And just share your first name with us too.
My name is Alejandra, and my question is, how good is to combine my family with my own business?
I'm sorry, repeat that?
Is it good to combine my family with my own business?
Your family with your own business. So you want to employ your family members or have your family members work in your business?
Yeah.
Okay, Michael, have you experienced that?
I've never experienced that directly. The closest I've had to that is starting with my company with a best friend, in essence. And the way that went down is we ended up disagreeing very viscerally about certain topics, and it ended up we don't even speak anymore. It got really bad. So usually what I tell people is, if you're starting a company with somebody, family especially, make sure you have a contract that defines a very clear line that says, hey, this is our business, this is what focuses on business, here's our family. And it takes a very special individual and families of individuals to understand that different mindset. It's a very stressful environment when you're starting a company. There's going to be a lot of very tough decisions about money. You have to, like Carol said, get really comfortable about talking about money and selling for money. There will be times where you have a negative balance in your bank account, and you can't stress about that. You have to be comfortable with that, and then the more you keep trying, the more you're going to get ahead, and that balance will eventually become positive. So if you're going to do that, I definitely just highly caution you to protect you and your family. It's not just for yourself. It's to protect that relationship with family members. I mean, you don't want to lose that, because at the end of the day, family is always going to be there for you.
Good. Next question. Yeah, up here in the front.
Oh, is there a mic?
Hi, my name is Paul. I'm a master's student here at Full Sail in game design. As a bit of a precursor to my question, personally, I had attempted to make a business out of Columbus, Ohio, that originated in making like video games and whatnot. One of the biggest challenges that I had was securing funding. Particularly the catch-22 was people weren't really wanting to work with me unless I had the money to pay them, and you need people to work with you on a project in order to get something out on the market to make money to pay them. So my question then is, what are your suggestions for securing initial funding for a business that you go to try to create, be it investment or otherwise?
Okay, good. So it's a question about funding. So how to get funding, especially very early in your business when you maybe don't even have a product yet or a track record. Michael.
So asking for funding is always a very scary question when I hear that. What I usually advise anybody that comes to me that's very early in their company, I say, as long as you can bootstrap and not take money, please, please do that. Because the minute you take money, you've sold your company to somebody else. Even if it's a very, very small percentage, they're going to get their way from that point forward. So it's no longer going to be your company. I do understand that visceral cycle of, oh, I need people, that I need to pay them to make money to then get funding. But if you can, that's where this whole topic of equity and how to dilute your company and what equity percentage should you offer an employee when they come into the company. So if you can really find, usually the co-founder and the first couple employees are very high equity and low salary. So for instance, I started a company, I had 20% equity, which is unheard of. Usually you get like 1 to 10%. So I had like 20% equity, but my salary was that of like $5,000 a year. And that was basically just to put food on the table type of deal. And that kind of got the ground up and running, and then that could get us in front of investors because then we had a product. Because this day and age, the times are long gone where you can just go with a fancy slide deck and present it to somebody and say, here's this great idea that I have. Give me money to build this. Nowadays, your investors are going to want to check your bank statements, see how much revenue you're bringing in, see what your revenue potential is, see what your growth potential is, and factor all of that in to see, hey, is what you're building worth me investing in? Because at the end of the day, they're going to be investing in 100 projects, and one of them is going to make them money. So the other 99 is losing them money, so they're trying to mitigate their risk on giving you the money. And there's other, angels and seeds and investors that are out there, but again, the more I'm seeing this go, and Carol, you can correct me, but yeah, they're definitely wanting to see revenue and growth and traction models and all of this. So if you're coming in there and you're a solo person or a small game dev shop of 3 people, you need to make sure you really have a tight product or a tight game that you think is really going to sell and make them money more than something that, say, if it's a mobile app you offer for free on a market, because that's never going to make them money because ads don't sell inside of games.
Right. I mean, think about it from the investor's point of view. If I were an investor and someone came to me asking for money, I'm not just going to give you free money. I probably don't even give my family members free money, right? And so I'm not going to give you free money. I want a return on that investment, and I want more than just the money I put in. So say I give you $10,000 or $50,000. Ideally, I would love to get 5 times or 10 times that money back in my investment. So how are you going to show me that that's possible? And being around the startup scene for the past 10 years, what I've seen is so many early entrepreneurs spend way too much time chasing funding that's not going to happen because they're not there yet, rather than chasing customers and finding customers who are going to pay them real money for their product or service or for their game. I mean, there's crowdfunding sites, raise money from family and friends to start off with. Don't look for investors that you don't know. And this may be not a very popular answer, but save money. So you may have to get a job for a year, save $10,000 or $20,000 from that job, and use that as capital to start your business, to hire a coder if you're not a coder, or hire a designer if you need a designer. Because every business that you start takes capital, whether it's money or it's your expertise and skills. You're going to need to have both of those.
Yeah, and one more to that point. You said you were from Columbus, Ohio. That's a very tough area to find a market investor that is specifically game development focused. Because one thing from a personal experience I had when starting the coding school company, we went out and secured investment, and I know I've talked about this before in previous Hall of Fames. Secured investments, and the investment group was a bunch of real estate investors. So we thought this $5 million that they were giving us was all this, well and good. We were going to use this to, buy laptops and get a space for the students so we could train them and all this fun stuff. It ended up they just wanted to buy a building. And when they lost the bid on the building they wanted to buy, we also lost the money, and therefore the whole company kind of crumbled at that point. But we didn't do our due diligence on finding an investor that was technology-based versus real estate-based. And that's another big mistake that I see young entrepreneurs make when they need funding is they'll take the first funding that's on the table, even if that person has no clue about whatever industry that you may be going into. I mean, there's all these fun shows out there, Shark Tank and all these other glorified investment shows. But if you look, the sharks, as you call them, the ones that actually invest in certain companies, they have a company already in that business. They know the market, so they know their risk is very low. They know they're going to make money. And obviously, if it should be very well known knowledge now, but to even get on a show like that, you're giving up a percentage of your company to all those sharks anyway. So they're going to make money off of you regardless.
All right, questions over here. Wait for the mic.
1-1.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Victoria. So I would like to ask, what happens if you find out that you have a big problem in the middle of starting your business? You should stop that immediately to don't get it much more worse, or you should find another type of way to start your own business again.
So the question was, what happens if I encounter a major problem when starting my company? Do I just continue to barrel through, or do I find another way to operate that business? So the big thing there is, if I know a major problem, it really depends on what that major problem is. If it's a funding problem, then sure, maybe we can go out and find different funding. If it's a problem of me and my co-founder are not getting along or agreeing on anything, then maybe it's best to part ways and start a company in a different manner. It comes down to what's the problem in starting that business, and is it something that's solvable, or is it something that's such a major issue that it's just going to break apart the company? And usually the biggest issues you find are money and co-founder disagreements. Everything else is kind of solvable when you're starting a company, but those two are really the big one. Or the third that comes into play that we've talked about already is customer research and market validation. I mean, if you're building something and you've been building something for 8 months, and you finally get it in front of people and realize, this isn't what people want, again, that's a very solvable problem. You just go in and say, okay, well, what do my customers that I'm now talking to want? And start building that. People have opinions. As humans, we are very highly opinionated, so we will tell you what we want. So you just build to that. Because we all have this grand idea in our heads and a bunch of ideas, but this is our ideas. You have to, when you're starting a company, you have to let that go. An idea is just an idea until you build something. And you have to be humble and realize that your idea can shift and mold into something completely different. But at the end of the day, it's the journey of that process is really going to help you learn, and what really makes you an entrepreneur versus somebody that's just trying to get a big payday. And as you start a business, I know it's very prevalent. You hear all these big money things these days of people cashing out. Expect 10 years before you even see a real positive pay flow coming into your company. It takes a long time to be positive and successful. Yes, there are the outliers, but those are 1 in a million.
And find some mentors. They don't even have to be formal mentors. You don't have to ask them to be your mentor or schedule something once a month, but your instructors can be mentors to you. Other people in your industry can be mentors to you. So if you do encounter a problem or an obstacle or a challenge in your business, you can tap into some of those mentors to help you just bounce ideas or just to talk out the problem. A lot of times you'll start to see the solution when you can actually physically articulate the problem to someone else. Right. Let's get a question from this side of the room over here. Anyone have a question?
I see a hand.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Chemistry. I'm in the Entertainment Business Bachelor's Program. And I just wanted to ask, I know that all companies have plateaus. I know that you guys as entrepreneurs, you are uninspired, and then, your business frustrates from that. But what did you guys specifically do to get out of that and catch your next wave, to continue to push forward your business?
That's a good question.
So what do we do to push forward our business? So there's a couple of different types of entrepreneurs. The idea people, what we call serial entrepreneurs, they're the ones that kind of get an idea off the ground, kind of get it running and sustainable, and then just bow out. They disappear and they go on to create the next thing. Then there's people like me who really want to stick it out and believe in the idea and really do anything we can to push through that plateau. Some of the things I've done is I've hired on different partners to give me different perspective. I've gone out and gotten different mentors in a completely different industry from anything that I'm building just to get their opinion on it. The very successful people, they surround themselves with successful people. The mentor thing is super key. If you can surround yourself with successful people and be the stupidest person in the room, you're doing good for yourself. If you're the smartest person in the room, you probably need to be in a different room because that's the only way you're going to learn going forward. That's what I did. I went to networking events and $1 million type of events, and I wasn't making that type of money, but I dressed nice and I showed up and acted like I knew what I was talking about, and people started listening.
I've hired business coaches to help me get through plateaus because even though I teach entrepreneurship, as a friend of mine likes to say, you can't use your superpower on yourself because you're stuck in your own head and you need to get out of your own bubble. And so having a business coach or someone, a mentor, whoever it happens to be, to give you that other perspective is really helpful. So that's helped me get through plateaus in my business. All right, we have time for a few more questions, maybe 2 more questions.
Okay, I have one from online.
Okay.
Jasmine in the Entertainment Business Program wants to know what are some books or podcast recommendations that you have for aspiring entrepreneurs.
So we talked about the Lean Startup. So the Lean Startup by Eric Ries is a great book. 48 Days to the Work You Love is a decent book.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I read a lot of books, but they're all escaping me at this moment. So tweet me at Carol Morgan Cox, and I will get back to you on my list of books. As far as podcasts, there are a lot of really good business-related and marketing-related podcasts. Everyone from Pat Flynn, his podcast. Michael Hyatt has a podcast, also a marketing podcast. I have a podcast called Speaking Your Brand, so you're welcome to listen to that. But again, tweet me, and I'll give you some of my top book recommendations. And probably the same for Michael.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely have some books that I would highly recommend that are not the most PG rated to talk about. If you're looking for somebody that's like an inspirational, motivational type of speaker, there's like Gary Vaynerchuk or like Tony Robbins. They're very motivational guys. Their message is the same in 15 different ways, but a lot of the times it's like that business coach. Sometimes it's just what you need to hear to get you past a plateau or a hump. So sometimes I'll even go on and still like read a message that's just kind of like, get out and do it. Like yesterday I was wearing a shirt that just said, put in the work. Sometimes it's that simple and we forget to do the simple things.
All right, another question.
I wanted to know about the book industry. Like, what would be the hotspots for it? Or are there any hotspots in particular around the country for the book industry?
For writing and publishing a book?
Yes.
As far as hotspots, do you mean certain genres?
Yeah. I don't know if I would say genre, but pertaining to fictional novels.
So you're looking to see where can you find a publisher for your book?
Well, more of like places where it's a lot easier to get it sold or to get it selling.
Readers of your book, to sell the book to readers.
Yeah.
Social media research would probably be one of the best things to do. So just start searching for keywords and phrases related to what your book is about, and you'll start to see, on Twitter and Instagram, social media profiles, and then maybe you can kind of aggregate where are people in the country who are talking about that particular thing.
I was going to say, I've worked with a couple of people that have a blog online that, wrote little blogs, and then they wrote a fictional story and published it right to their own website. It ended up getting enough traction that a publisher approached them. Usually the hardest part in publishing a book and getting people to read your book is finding a publisher that'll buy into that. And I would say, from my limited experience in book publishing, there's no real like specific place you should move to have a publisher buy into your fictional story more so than another. As with a business, a book, the publisher will be buying into you as much as your story. So you really focus on yourself and how to sell yourself, and that'll sell your book as well. If you're looking to just self-publish, there's plenty of places out there that, I mean, you can go to, what's it called? I think Staples still exists. I mean, you can go to Staples and hard bind the book yourself and start passing out copies and, do a grassroots approach that way as well.
All right, so raise your hand if you're excited about starting a business. Hopefully we didn't scare you away. No, it really is the best thing that I've ever done in my career. And I didn't think when I was young that I'd ever be an entrepreneur. So, all right, thank you so much, everyone, for attending today's session and for asking these fantastic questions. And have the great time at the rest of Hall of Fame.
Thanks, everybody.